How to control anger through Stoic philosophy. Anger is one of the most powerful and dangerous emotions known to humanity. It erupts like fire, sudden, fierce, and often uncontrollable. In its wake, it leaves broken relationships, shattered self-respect, regretful words, and impulsive actions. While it is natural to feel anger, it is not always wise to act upon it. Most of us have experienced moments where we let anger take the wheel, only to find ourselves apologizing, fixing damage, or wishing we could turn back time. In our modern world, the triggers of anger are everywhere. From rude comments on social media and traffic jams to personal insults or injustice in the workplace, we are constantly exposed to situations that can ignite frustration and resentment. Yet very few people are taught how to understand or manage their anger effectively. The common advice, just calm down or count to 10, often falls short, especially when anger stems from deeper sources such as pride, fear, or unmet expectations. This is where philosophy becomes not just abstract theory, but a practical guide. And among the many schools of thought that have tackled the nature of human emotions, Stoicism stands out as one of the most enduring and actionable. Developed over 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece and Rome, Stoicism offers timeless insights into the roots of anger and how we can transform our emotional reactions into reasoned responses. The Stoics did not deny the reality of anger. They did not tell us to repress or ignore it. Instead, they taught us to understand it, to dissect it, to trace its origin, and ultimately to master it. To the Stoics, anger was not a sign of strength, but of weakness. It represented a failure of rational thought, a lapse in virtue, and a moment when passion conquered reason. For thinkers like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, anger was one of the most destructive emotions a person could indulge in, and controlling it was one of the greatest acts of discipline and wisdom. Seneca, in his famous work on anger, described anger as a form of temporary madness. He observed that angry people often become irrational, violent, and self-destructive. His vivid imagery of anger consuming the soul like a disease highlights the urgency with which Stoics treated this emotion, not as something to be embraced, but something to be overcome. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who had every reason to be angry at traitors, wars, illness, and disappointment, chose instead to reflect, forgive, and lead with clarity. In his meditations, he constantly reminded himself to expect rudeness, cruelty, and ignorance from others, and to meet them not with rage, but with patience and understanding. For him, anger clouded judgment, and judgment was the foundation of wise leadership. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that the source of our anger is not what happens to us, but how we choose to interpret it. This is one of the core Stoic teachings. It's not the event itself, but our perception of it that causes suffering. If we can change our perception, we can change our emotional reaction. In this way, anger becomes not something that happens to us, but something we allow to grow within us, and therefore something we can prevent. In the Stoic view, anger arises when our expectations clash with reality. We expect fairness, and we get injustice. We expect respect, and we get insult. We expect comfort, and we get pain. When the world doesn't meet our inner script, we explode. The Stoic solution? Change the script. Let go of the illusion that the world must behave according to your desires. Instead, learn to accept what is and act wisely within it. This philosophy may sound simple, but it is anything but easy. To adopt a Stoic mindset takes practice, awareness, and deep inner work. It involves examining your thoughts, understanding your triggers, and committing to respond with clarity instead of emotional chaos. But the reward is enormous. Peace of mind, stronger relationships, better decisions, and a life that is not ruled by rage. In this journey to control anger, we are not aiming to become emotionless robots. We are seeking to become wise, balanced individuals who can feel emotions without being enslaved by them. Stoicism gives us a roadmap to that goal, one that has stood the test of centuries. As we explore how to deal with anger through Stoic philosophy, let us remember one essential truth. Anger is not power. Mastery over anger is. The Stoics believed that our emotions do not arise directly from events themselves, but rather from our judgments about those events. This principle is fundamental in Stoic philosophy and provides a radical yet empowering way to view anger and all other emotions. According to Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. This idea shifts the power of emotional response from the outside world back to the individual. If our judgments can be examined and improved, so too can our emotional responses. In modern terms, the Stoics were among the first to understand what today's cognitive behavioral therapy also teaches, that thoughts shape feelings, and that by changing the way we think, we can change the way we feel. But Stoicism takes it even further. The Stoics didn't seek to suppress emotion through force, nor did they advocate for emotional coldness. Instead, they aimed to understand the true origin of emotions, to avoid being ruled by them. For the Stoics, emotions were classified into two categories: healthy emotions and passions. Passions, such as anger, fear, envy, and excessive desire, were considered irrational and unhealthy because they are based on false beliefs about what is good or bad. Anger, for example, arises when we believe that we have been wronged and that it is both intolerable and unacceptable. But from the Stoic point of view, this judgment is flawed. No one can truly wrong you unless you give them the power to disturb your inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher emperor, wrote extensively about keeping one's mind calm and untouched by the behavior of others. He reminded himself in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This single sentence encapsulates the Stoic understanding of emotional mastery. The moment we accept that external circumstances cannot touch the core of our being unless we allow them to, we begin to reclaim our freedom from reactive emotions like anger. Seneca, another major Stoic figure, dedicated an entire essay to the topic of anger, titled De Ira, on anger. He saw anger as a form of temporary madness, a loss of reason, a surrender to destructive energy. He argued that even when anger feels justified, it leads us away from wise action and toward harm, both to others and to ourselves. According to Seneca, one who is angry loses the ability to see clearly, act justly, and think rationally. Instead of solving the problem, anger often intensifies it. This doesn't mean that the Stoics wanted people to become emotionless robots. Far from it. The Stoics aimed to cultivate what they called eupatheiai, rational, healthy emotions rooted in truth. These include feelings like joy and virtue, caution grounded in reason, and rational desire for things within one's control. The goal was not to eliminate emotional life, but to purify it, to ensure that emotions serve our higher nature rather than enslave it. To fully understand the Stoic view of emotions, it's essential to grasp their idea of dichotomy of control. That is, we must distinguish between what is within our power, our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and what lies beyond it, such as the actions of others, external events, and outcomes. Anger arises most often when we try to control what we cannot. We get angry when someone cuts us off in traffic, when a friend disappoints us, or when life doesn't go as planned. But all of these situations lie outside our true control. What is within our control is how we interpret and respond to them. Epictetus used a powerful metaphor. Remember, it is not he who gives abuse or blows who insults, but the view we take of these things as insulting. When therefore anyone provokes you, be assured that it is your own opinion which provokes you. This idea may be difficult to accept, especially when emotions feel overwhelming, but it offers an incredibly empowering path. If anger comes from within, then so too does the power to dissolve it. Through mindful awareness and philosophical training, the Stoics believed we could replace automatic reactions with deliberate responses. This process is not about repression, but about self-mastery. It is about choosing our response consciously, guided by reason, and aligned with virtue. In short, to understand the Stoic view of emotions is to understand the blueprint for emotional freedom. Anger in this framework is not simply a feeling to endure, but a signal of a false belief, one that we can examine, challenge, and ultimately let go. When we see anger not as a fact, but as a judgment, we take the first step toward dissolving its hold on us. And in doing so, we move closer to what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of inner tranquility untouched by the chaos of the world. Anger is one of the most powerful and disruptive emotions in the human experience. It burns quickly, blinds our reason, and often leaves destruction in its wake. While many philosophies and belief systems have tried to manage or justify anger, the Stoics stood apart in their clear and uncompromising stance. Anger is not only useless, it is deeply harmful to both the self and others. To the Stoics, particularly thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, anger was never a sign of strength or moral righteousness. Instead, it was a failure of judgment, a breakdown of rational thinking, and a betrayal of one's commitment to virtue. Let us begin with Seneca, who wrote extensively on the topic in his seminal work on anger, De Ira. He describes anger as a form of temporary madness. No plague has cost the human race more. According to Seneca, anger is not a natural instinct that should be indulged or accepted. It is an error of the mind that we must train ourselves to resist. He viewed it as the most hideous and destructive of all the passions, for it can not only ruin relationships but destroy nations. Anger, once unleashed, is hard to control. It does not stop when the initial offense is gone. It feeds on itself and grows. To allow anger to dominate one's actions is to hand over control of one's soul to chaos. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, offered a perspective rooted in agency and control. He taught that it is never the external event that causes anger, but our judgment about it. When we are insulted, disrespected, or harmed, what truly enrages us is not the act itself, but the meaning we assign to it. Epictetus insisted that we train ourselves to examine our judgments. If we view an insult as a threat to our self-worth, we become angry. But if we recognize that the insult reflects more on the speaker than on ourselves, we maintain our inner calm. This brings us to a fundamental Stoic insight. Anger is always a choice, whether conscious or unconscious. By changing the way we interpret events, we can remove the very fuel that anger needs to ignite. Anger, in the Stoic view, is based on false beliefs, that others should behave the way we want them to, that we deserve better, or that the universe is somehow being unfair. Stoics challenge us to let go of these unrealistic expectations and see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, provides perhaps the most practical and personal reflections on anger. In his meditations, he often reminds himself that people act badly out of ignorance. When you wake up in the morning, he wrote, "Tell yourself, today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil." By expecting people to behave poorly, Marcus diffuses the emotional shock that often leads to anger. He does not excuse bad behavior, but he chooses not to be disturbed by it. Marcus also emphasizes the unity of all human beings. When someone offends us, he says, we should remember that we are part of the same whole. Just as the hand does not retaliate against the foot for stumbling, so should we respond to others not with punishment but with understanding. This Stoic compassion is not rooted in sentiment, but in reason. It is rational to forgive, because resentment clouds judgment and destroys harmony. Moreover, the Stoics believe that virtue is the only true good. Anger, on the other hand, leads us away from virtue. It makes us harsh, impatient, and unjust. The angry person may speak truth, but they often do so in a way that burns bridges and poisons their own character. A Stoic seeks to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, and anger threatens all four. Importantly, Stoicism does not teach suppression of emotions. The goal is not to become emotionless, but rather to align emotions with reason. What the Stoics rejected was irrational emotion, the kind that hijacks the mind and pulls us away from what we know to be right. In place of anger, the Stoics recommend calm resolve, deliberate action, and inner stillness. To summarize, the Stoics rejected anger not because they were cold or detached, but because they understood its dangers. Anger is seductive. It gives a false sense of power, a temporary rush of righteousness. But it is a fire that consumes without distinction. The Stoic chooses the harder path, to respond with clarity instead of rage, with understanding instead of retaliation. This is not weakness, it is mastery. And in a world that constantly tempts us to react with fury, this ancient wisdom may be more necessary than ever. Controlling anger isn't just about suppressing emotional outbursts in the moment. It's about transforming how we perceive the world over time. According to the Stoics, to truly free ourselves from the grip of anger, we must rewire our minds to value reason over impulse, virtue over ego, and clarity over chaos. This transformation is not a quick fix, but a gradual shift, a long-term mindset anchored in wisdom, discipline, and a deeper understanding of human nature. The Stoics believe that emotions like anger arise from false judgments. When we believe that someone has intentionally wronged us or that our expectations have been violated, we feel justified in responding with fury. But these are not objective facts. They are interpretations, often distorted by our desires, attachments, and sense of pride. Therefore, the Stoic solution to anger is not repression, but correction, correcting how we see and judge the world. To build a Stoic mindset that resists anger, we begin by questioning our assumptions. Is the person who cut you off in traffic truly evil? Or are they simply distracted or in a hurry or unaware of what they've done? Is your colleague's criticism a personal attack, or could it be a misunderstanding or even an opportunity to learn something? The Stoics teach us to assume the best, not the worst. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that people will be selfish, rude, and unjust, not because they want to hurt us, but because they are ignorant of what is good. That perspective softens our reactions and reminds us of our shared humanity. One of the most profound mindset shifts in Stoicism is the recognition that the only thing truly within our control is our own mind, our judgments, our choices, and our actions. Everything else, what people say, what they do, how they treat us, is external. When we allow anger to control us, we are surrendering that one piece of freedom we truly possess. Epictetus put it bluntly: if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. With practice, we can learn to guard this inner citadel, refusing to hand over control to anyone or anything outside of us. Anger is often rooted in ego. We get angry because we feel insulted, disrespected, or ignored. But the Stoics saw ego as a fragile illusion. If you are truly grounded in your values, if you are living in accordance with reason and virtue, then no external slight can truly harm you. Seneca wrote that the wise person is content with themselves and does not seek applause or validation. Letting go of ego doesn't mean becoming passive or weak. It means becoming strong enough that you don't need to prove yourself through emotional outbursts. Another key to the Stoic mindset is detachment from outcome. Anger often arises when reality doesn't match our expectations. We expect fairness and receive injustice. We expect loyalty and receive betrayal. But Stoicism teaches us that while we should always strive to act justly and wisely, we must not cling to results. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Do your duty and let the outcome be what it will." When you detach your sense of peace from external outcomes, you become unshakable. You act from principle, not from reaction. This long-term Stoic mindset also involves compassion. It may seem strange. Stoics are often wrongly accused of being cold or emotionless, but true Stoicism is deeply human. It recognizes that people act poorly because they are confused, misled, or suffering. If someone lashes out at you, the Stoic response is not to lash back, but to see their pain. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, like ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but they are still my kin. Stoicism does not erase emotion, it elevates it, transforming anger into empathy and conflict into opportunity for understanding. Lastly, a long-term Stoic shift requires daily reflection. The Stoics practiced evening journaling, reviewing the events of the day. Where did I lose my temper? Where could I have responded with more patience? What did I learn about myself? This habit, humble and consistent, is the soil in which Stoic character grows. You won't become perfectly calm overnight, but each day you reflect, you lay another stone in the foundation of an unshakable mind. In time, this mindset shift becomes your new default. You no longer feel the need to shout to be heard, to win every argument, or to punish those who cross you. Instead, you respond with quiet strength, guided not by rage, but by reason. You choose your reactions. You maintain your inner freedom. And that is the ultimate Stoic victory, not to escape anger, but to transcend it. In the face of frustration, injustice, or disrespect, anger often feels like the most natural response. It surges through us like fire, raw, fast, and seemingly justified. And yet, it is in those very moments of emotional upheaval that Stoicism offers a calm and powerful hand to hold on to, a way to step back, breathe, and choose a better path. The Stoics did not teach us to suppress our anger out of fear or weakness. They urged us to transform it through understanding, reason, and self-discipline. To them, anger was not strength, it was the loss of strength. True power, they believed, lies in calm clarity, not in loud retaliation. Seneca, one of the most eloquent voices on anger, wrote, "No plague has cost the human race more." He did not speak only of wars or violence, but of the inner corrosion that anger causes, damaged relationships, impulsive decisions, and the slow decay of our peace of mind. He saw clearly what many of us learn only through pain, that unchecked anger never leads to anything noble. It only pulls us further from the person we are trying to become. Marcus Aurelius, a man who held immense power, yet constantly reminded himself of humility, wrote in his Meditations, "When angry, count the cost." He knew that anger clouds the mind, and a clouded mind cannot live in accordance with virtue. Anger makes us forget who we are. It makes us slaves to the very impulses Stoicism teaches us to rule over. And Epictetus, once a slave who found immense freedom in philosophy, reminded us that no one can make us angry unless we give them permission. You are disturbed not by what happens, but by your opinion about it. These words hold a revolutionary truth, that anger is not imposed on us, it is invited. It is created within, and anything that is created within can be uncreated. To reflect on anger through the lens of Stoicism is to realize that every moment of rage is a test of character. The person who cuts you off in traffic, the rude remark, the betrayal, they are not obstacles to your peace. They are invitations to practice it. Stoicism does not ask us to become indifferent robots. It asks us to become better humans. People who think before they act, who ask whether their response reflects their values, and who value long-term peace over short-term release. In a world where outrage is easy and often encouraged, restraint becomes a radical act of strength. Choosing not to lash out is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the wisdom to know that anger rarely solves anything, but often creates more problems than it aims to fix. It's the discipline to pause when your ego screams for attention. It's the humility to say, maybe I'm wrong, or even if I'm right, peace matters more. And more than anything, controlling anger is an act of self-respect. When you refuse to be dragged down by others' negativity, you are claiming ownership of your inner world. When you rise above irritation and insult, you are building a fortress of serenity that cannot be shaken by trivial things. This doesn't mean you won't feel anger. You will. You're human. But feeling it is not the problem. Letting it control you is. The Stoic path is not about denying emotions, but about not becoming their servant. Emotions are signals, not instructions. And anger, like all emotions, can be acknowledged, then examined, then released. When you look at anger not as something to feed, but as something to learn from, it becomes a guide rather than a trap. It can teach you where your attachments are. It can show you where you need to grow. It can highlight the gap between your expectations and reality, and invite you to narrow that gap through perspective. The ultimate Stoic practice is to respond, not react. To ask yourself, is this within my control? And if it isn't, then why give it your energy? Why hand over your inner peace to someone else's actions? Because when all is said and done, the person most harmed by your anger is you. The clenched jaw, the elevated heart rate, the sleepless nights, these are the costs of allowing external things to hijack your internal state. And for what? For the illusion of justice? For the fleeting satisfaction of having the last word? Real strength, as the Stoics remind us, is quiet. It's the strength to hold your tongue, to slow your breath, to step back, look at the bigger picture, and choose a response that aligns with who you want to be, not with who someone else provoked you to be. So let anger come, let it knock, but don't let it in. Thank it for the lesson, and then let it pass. In mastering your anger, you master your mind. In mastering your mind, you master your life. And that is the Stoic way.